All right, let's just start with last week's football game against Syracuse. Kind of a downer, but I wanted to get your take on it, on what you thought about UConn Syracuse.
Well, look, disappointing. I'm not going to say it's a downer. I'm, like I'm sure everyone over in the Burton football complex is disappointed and frustrated because we really dominated that game for 3.5 quarters. But ultimately, I choose to look at it in a way that, I'm very hopeful. We've got 10 games left. I think if we can learn from the first 2 weeks and continue to get better, we have a chance to win, a lot of the games left on our schedule. And so everything is still in front of us. Obviously, painful to lose to Syracuse, painful to lose when you've controlled the game like we did that day. But, ultimately, none of this is easy. We were on the road. Deck was stacked against us in a lot of ways, but our guys competed their tails off, and I'm very proud of that.
I thought when I was looking at the post game, I was just walking around JMA Wireless and seeing Coach Fran Brown running his guys in some sprint session, and I'm like, oh, that's a pretty cool tradition that they do here after game. Oh, that's not tradition. Oh, he's mad at his guys. Just as an athletic director, what are your stances on post-game practices? I've seen it in basketball. I know Coach K down in Duke used to have some practices after some games, even some wins that Duke had. I've heard some stories in the past about some other post-game practices in basketball, but what are your thoughts as an athletic director practicing after a game is complete?
Well, I don't know if there was any practicing going on. I saw guys running sprints, which actually, the NCAA has a rule that was put in place really because of some of the tragic incidents with student athletes dying during conditioning from exhaustion. And so, look, I'm not here to suggest that they violated any NCAA rule, but I'm not sure what what value is in doing that, other than to tell your team that you're not happy with them. So, I mean, it's a long day. If you think about, kids usually get out on the field at least 90 minutes early. That game was, 3.5 hours long. So you're talking about you got kids out there for over 5 hours already. I don't tend to know what their thought process was around that, but I think that's probably something that doesn't happen much anymore.
Talking to David Benedict, the athletic director from the University of Connecticut. Time to celebrate again. A couple more women went into the NBA Hall of Fame over the weekend. Sue Bird, Maya Moore, Coach Ariema was up there. Had to be a nice time for all, seeing a couple more from the women's program go into the NBA Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's an amazing tradition. Hopefully most of our fans got a chance to either stream it like I did once I got home from Syracuse, or be there in person to witness it. But we have unbelievable representation from our former athletes that have become Hall of Fame members, and congrats to Maya and Sue. Tremendous recognition for them and the university and for Coach Oriema. And we obviously look forward to many more of our former athletes going into the Hall, because I'm pretty confident that Sue and Maya won't be the last. But no, and it's obviously amazing that it's so close. It's unique that Hall of Fame is so close to Connecticut and the university. So it makes it really special.
It makes it easy for Coach to get there. Coach Gino introducing both Maya Moore and Sue Bird, and then Swin Cash being a part of the induction as well. That was pretty cool. And I was thinking about, what an alumni game would look like for UConn women's basketball. There'd be everybody be fighting each other for minutes. We'd have to do like a tournament, like a 4-way or something, just to get everybody some time. And then I noticed, because we were talking fall golf yesterday and saw that UConn is a part of a fall golf tournament right now as we're talking. Then I looked at like what's going on with fall ball as far as baseball, softball goes. I did see an alumni game September 28th for Coach Pender's crew. That's awesome. Plus they got Rhode Island and Boston College on the schedule. Just speak on fall sports for your spring sports. Golf is, traditionally, and it's always in the spring. Baseball, softball, always in the spring. They're national championships. After that, they're the last ones of the year in the academic calendar. But like setting up those games, the importance of those games, the fall season for spring sports.
Yeah, so you're the way we talk about it in college athletics is championship segment versus non-championship segment. So, the fall sports that are competing now, they do it in the spring. Hockey is like one of the few sports that doesn't do it, but that's because they play almost all year already. But no, listen, hey, it's an opportunity to, especially in today's world where you have a lot of transfers, it's an opportunity to bring your kids together, get more work done, evaluate kids that just showed up to campus, whether they be freshmen or transfers. And so there's a lot of value in it. It's not really meant, you're not trying to go out and necessarily have, an undefeated record. If you're competing against people, obviously you always want to win, but that's not really where the value is. It's more in evaluation of your roster and trying to get prepared for the spring. But it's an area that's evolved because when you're competing, you want the kind of support that you have in your championship segment. So, our coaches are always pushing, our student athletes are always pushing. They want the same social media coverage. They want photographers. They want the video board. They want, all of these different things. And it makes it challenging because you've got so many different events going on. We have a great staff, but it's not significant in numbers, and so it just makes it really challenging for us to provide all of that support. And so we focus our time and attention on supporting the teams that are actually competing in their championship segments. So, in the fall, you're talking about volleyball, field hockey. We've got obviously football and men's and women's soccer going right now.
And didn't volleyball sweep over the weekend? I mean, who's playing the best so far? And I know the schedule is very young, but I know the field hockey is usually nationally ranked. Volleyball did really well this weekend.
Yeah, so field hockey got a win over Brown. It was a good win. As you mentioned, volleyball beat South Dakota, Ball State, and Colgate, which a couple of those teams, I think, won their conferences last year. So they're off to a good start. They've had, they've swept both their first and second weekends. Men's and women's soccer both had victories, multiple victories this past week. And so, look, we're off to a start that we expected in all of our sports, and just getting prepared and geared up for the conference season because, as we all know, in a lot of these sports, you've got to win your conference championship and or your tournament championship to get the right to go represent the university in the NCAA championship. And so, that's obviously the goal. Winning in the non-conference helps, obviously, your ranking. And just getting prepared for your conference slate.
Man, I'm still stinging about Saturday. I can't get over it. Maybe a win this coming Saturday at Delaware.
Yeah, you've got to. You got to turn the page.
I was just thinking,
because if you don't, you're not going to show up in the right, mental,
right.
Frame of mind on Saturday, and we need you there. Like we can't have you spending any more time wallowing in whatever form of grief you have. Like it's time to get ready for next Saturday, and that's the good and the bad of football season. It's week to week, but once Monday is over, you got to turn.
Got to have a
the page
short
and
memory.
get ready.
Yep.
Well,
That's
me
right.
though. I've been telling everybody in town we're going to be undefeated, and ESPN was going to have a hell of a time kicking
You
us
told
out of that
everybody
college
the
football
Dodgers were
playoff.
going to be undefeated.
That's true. I'm over
Well,
that one. That one I'm over.
They have a worse record than the Cubs.
It was just the third
Hey,
quarter.
11-1. We've got
11-1
a lot
would
of
be
tough
cool.
games.
Yep.
11-1 would be great. We got a lot of tough games ahead of us, and it starts with Delaware. I mean, Delaware is a team that obviously is making the move from FCS to FBS. They're obviously going to be excited to bring in their first, Division 1A opponent to their stadium, and so I'm sure they're going to be fired up. And look, we need to go control what we control and play our game. And if we do that and we're focused and build off of last week, I think we've got a great chance to have a good outcome.
I'm glad you brought it up. That was going to be my question about Delaware because they went to Conference USA, and I'm just wondering if you've noticed, maybe you'll notice on Saturday if it's been a facility upgrade, if they've put more money into adding their rosters or coaches, just making that step from FCS to FBS, and tell people the basics, scholarship-wise, and just what it does for your football program.
Well, I can't speak to what level of increased investment they've made. Obviously, I'm sure they've had to increase their scholarships. Typically, in the past, right now there's no more scholarship limits. So,
Right.
But in the past, FCS teams usually provide 65 scholarships, where FBS is at 85. But there's those limitations don't exist anymore, as we know. And so, how many scholarships they're giving, I'm not sure at this point in time. But look, there's a transition period that you would expect for any team that's moving up a division. And although the transfer portal allows that to happen quicker, I think you're going to be playing a team that's going through that transition. So hopefully, I would imagine physically and athletically, we'll have a little bit of an advantage there. But ultimately, as we saw on Saturday, you got to show up every week. And if you don't, and you're playing a good team, which Delaware has traditionally been a very successful FCS program, you got a chance to get beat. And so I'm sure there was a lot of work put into getting our guys mentally in the right frame of mind, which you're obviously not yet, Ben. But
I know
the team is,
right.
And I'm sure they're looking forward to taking out some of that frustration that they felt after that game on Saturday out on the Blue Hens this weekend.
There you go. Mr. Benedict, always great to have you on every week. We appreciate your time, and go Huskies against Delaware this Saturday.
Let's go, boys. Thank you.